We have an historic Middle East peace that never, ever would have happened without President Donald J. Trump. It is incredible what he did. There's several things that had to make this happen. And I'm going to be telling you in just a little bit here several things that you have not heard yet. Things that you must hear that are absolutely riveting and important. Details on how this came together. How Hamas was faced with something where they realized this was their only option. It was all because of Donald J. Trump. And how the deal came together with the brilliance of Donald J. Trump behind the scenes in meetings where they were at the Four Seasons in Egypt on the Red Sea. Hamas was in one little hut or whatever they call them. Trump's son-in-law and real estate friend, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner were in another villa. They call them villas. And Turkey, Qatar, and others were in another villa. Just brilliant. Also, we're going to talk about interception. There's brand new stuff that came out today. Intel that was found in Gaza from Hamas and interceptions that were released in a lengthy piece in the New York Times today that was riveting. And then also something that's never been heard before. The first hostage to release a book. We've got details from that is just, you've never heard anything like this. Nothing that you heard before is what you're going to hear tonight, including myself until I read it, and I'm going to share it with you. But first of all, this never would have happened if Trump didn't allow Israel to be unleashed. This never would have happened with Joe Biden because he would not unleash Israel to do what it needed to do to destroy Hamas. He was, as you know, under Biden, he was saying, if you keep doing these, he wanted a ceasefire with nothing. He kept saying, if you keep attacking so much in Gaza, Israel, I'm going to stop giving you bombs and munitions. Trump didn't do that. He kept the bombs and munitions up, and he let Israel pound the freaking crap out of the terrorists in Gaza. Number two, Trump bombed Iran, and he had Iran soften. He had Israel soften Iran, and then he bombed Iran. It was a brilliant, beautiful joint mission. I told you it was going to happen, that we were going to bomb Iran within the year. I told you that it was going to be a joint mission with Israel, and it was, and it worked. Today, Iran sits defenseless. It has no defense in its air. Defenses are gone, and it is weak and impotent with no nuclear program that works. It's still there, but it is not working, and it will not be reconstituted for 3, 4, 5 years. And if it starts to be rebuilt in any way, shape, or form over the next 3 years, Trump will blow it up. 3 years and 2 months, Trump will blow it up again. And we know that, and he said it. These precious, important things that Biden never would have done have laid the groundwork for this. Another thing, Israel's audacious bombing and attack in Qatar to try to assassinate Hamas members in their 5-star hotel luxury in Qatar. That attack that failed, they killed some people, but they didn't kill the 4 leaders they wanted to kill of Hamas. That actually was another major, major thing. I wondered today, did Trump actually allow that to happen while pretending to be mad? I don't know. Probably not, because he made Bibi apologize in front of the cameras to Qatar, which is another critical incident. But none of these things this would not have happened without those things. Hamas saw no options out. And in fact, it was President Erdogan from Turkey who Joe Biden isolated and did not bring into the fold. Trump instead has a good relationship with Erdogan. It's all about relationships. Trump brought Erdogan in on this deal, and Erdogan, he realized, had tremendous power in influencing Hamas and its decisions. And Erdogan was the critical linchpin, along with Qatar and Egypt and some other Arab nations I'll tell you about. This is a united Arab front for all intents and purposes, brought together by Donald J. Trump that forced Hamas with no options. Now, I want you to have a good laugh tonight, because Joe Biden, breaking this evening in the last hour, Joe Biden says that it was his deal. He did this. He literally said he did this. Listen to this. Joe couldn't let this pass without saying, look at how awesome I am. I did this. Joe. And of course, what's her name? Joe! Joe! You did a great job. You answered all the questions. Joey, you did it. You got peace in Israel and Gaza. Joe tweeted this tonight. The road to this deal was not easy. You did it, Joe. My administration worked relentlessly to bring hostages home, get relief to Palestinian civilians, and end the war. You did, Joe, you did it. Biden did commend President Trump tonight and his team for their work, but claimed Trump simply got a renewed ceasefire deal over the finish line. I did this. Remember that at the end of that, was it the end of X-Files? The last thing you saw on the production credits, and they said, I did this. Remember that little kid's voice? I did this. Or I made this. Something like that, yeah. That's Joe Biden tonight. What a loser. Seriously, he's just a loser. None of this would have happened without Trump tonight. Trump said tonight, and I'll play some audio of it. Trump said tonight, I love Israel. He said it today, actually. I love Israel, he said. He said, I'm with you all the way. And I'm going to try to quickly describe the feeling as an evangelical Christian that I have when I see this. It is a deep, deep feeling of joy and strength. In Israel tonight, I am so, so proud that as I was calling for 2 years now into this war, may the Star of David crush these terrorists. And it did. The state of Israel, the size of New Jersey with a population of 9 million, destroyed Hezbollah to the north in Lebanon, destroyed Iran and its nuclear program with the help of us, crushed and destroyed Hamas. They are a remnant. They are on the third or fourth or fifth string people that are running Hamas, and they are neutered tremendously tonight. It is beautiful. And I have joy and I have deep faith, and it gives me great joy to see Trump say tonight, my president, I voted for this. I love Israel. I'm with you all the way, and we are. May God bless Israel. This is cool. This is very cool. Yair Lapid, I guess, is his name. He's the opposition leader. He is the opposition leader, so he's the guy that's against Netanyahu. Today he told President Trump, when others abandon us, you stood by our side. Mr. President, you have saved the lives of our hostages. I have goosebumps just thinking about that. That's the opposition leader who wants to throw Netanyahu in jail. The Trump strategy is the exact, as the Wall Street Journal editorial board said today, is the exact opposite of the Biden strategy, which is why Biden's claims tonight are such a laughable freaking joke. Weekend Tony Blinken, as what's his name, Hannity calls him, Tony Blinken said the same thing. Oh, look at how we did this. Okay, good job. Hey, yeah, you did it. Yeah, you're still in office. Yeah, hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Yeah. Trump did the exact opposite of Joe Biden's strategy, the Journal's editorial board says. Trump's strategy was to ignore the media pressure and back Mr. Netanyahu, and that's exactly what he did, all the way. Rashida Tlaib and all the radical Islamists, I haven't heard anything also from, what's her name, the lady who married her brother, Ilhan Omar. Rashida Tlaib tonight has said nothing. She hasn't said she's happy. She's a Palestinian American. She said nothing. She's not happy that the genocide is over. So the genocide is over, and she's not happy. The peace plan, they've been demanding a ceasefire for 2 years, and the ceasefire happened, and she's silent. Of course she is, because she supports radical Islamic terrorism and the terrorism of Hamas. And one more thing tonight to think about before I continue to get into this. If Biden and Kamala and the Democrats had their way, Trump would be in jail right now. The hostages would not be free. Hamas would be very strong. And Israel would be very weak. And Iran would still be weeks away from a bomb. Think about that tonight. President Trump declaring the end of the war. And remember this too tonight. The Iranians, none of this would have happened if President Trump didn't bomb Iran. I wanted to mention that again because it was just so important. And here's a great little story. I just highlighted a few words from this Wall Street Journal story also from today. Joe Biden failed. Joe Biden failed. But tonight he says, I did it. Yeah, Joe, you did it. Yeah. He failed. Just dwell on that. Joe Biden failed. Trump did this. We voted for this. Instead of being in jail, he ended the war. I can't wait to tell you in just moments how this all came together. And the other thing that mentioned in this article that I wanted to just say to you is these couple of words too. Hamas had to give up its biggest lever of power. The biggest lever of power was those last 20 hostages, or 24 depending on who's counting. They gave up their leverage. All they have now is dead hostages that they can or can't find. Dead hostages are important to bring back, but they are not alive. The urgency is nothing compared to what it was. Now, I want to get into... I don't do this too often. I've done it on the air a lot, which is why I'm going to do it tonight. And I have some audio, by the way. Oh my gosh, let's do this first. The deep agony. Now it's joy, but it's deep agony and wailing. The deep agony and wailing of a mother and of a wife. For 1 second, I thought today about how much I love my daughter. To think if your daughter is kidnapped by terrorists, you know they're most likely raping her daily, most likely torturing her, starving her, beating her. My beautiful son, 22 years old, you know what they're doing to him. They do rape men. One man that was released wouldn't show his face, but it did an interview with Israeli television. I think it was this Channel 12, they call it. He was raped. They beat the men, they starve them, even worse. And to think about your son or my son or your daughter or my daughter down there every single day for 764 days, I believe was the total. Let me play the wailing, the deep, deep wailing. It's so important to hear. And the agony, all of it coming out in joy, but just deep wailing.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. וואי וואי, אוי כמה.
טוב שלי, בוא, אמא שלך, אוי נמרוד, אוי, ילד גיבור שלי, ילד גיבור. חיים שלי, אתה חיים שלי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
And that's with your daughter, your son, your wife coming home alive. What's it like not coming home alive? Okay, here, a coordinated squeeze forced Hamas to accept a deal it didn't want. This from the Journal. And this is what you haven't heard about. This is the whole part where you're going to hear 4 different things that you have not heard about. From the Daily Mail, from the New York Times, from Axios, and from the Wall Street Journal. Egypt and Qatar told Hamas that this was their last chance. But the next day they were joined by Turkey. And they warned him that if Hamas did not approve this plan by Trump, they would be stripped of all political and diplomatic cover. Qatar and Turkey would no longer host the group's political leadership. Qatar would not host them anymore. Turkey would not host them anymore. And Egypt would stop pressing for Hamas to have a say in Gaza's post-war governance. That is the Arab frickin' world. You can't include Saudi Arabia because they're not a friend of these people. Well, they wanted Gaza to help, but we already have Saudi Arabia on our side, so that's not going to be a problem. The campaign that forced Hamas to accept the deal it didn't want was a result of weeks of effort by the Trump team, not the Biden team, to bring Middle East powers together that Joe Biden could never bring together. Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey together in a coordinated push to get Hamas to agree to sign up. the better relations with Turkey that Joe Biden never had, and the Gulf gave Trump the leverage, says the Journal. Meanwhile, the Gulf states have become alarmed at their own security after the Israeli airstrike against Hamas in Qatar. See? The Israeli airstrike against Hamas in Qatar that just happened a couple weeks ago. That supposedly Trump really didn't like it. Maybe he didn't like that, but that actually was critical because it made Turkey and the Gulf go, oh crap. They might come after us if we work with them and take them, under our wing or let them stay here while they negotiate. Once Trump got Benjamin Netanyahu to publicly agree to end the war, Hamas was now cornered as the lone holdout. Trump did what Joe Biden Trump did what Joe Biden could never do. He isolated Hamas from the world and the Arab world. Israel, meanwhile, shrugged off the international pressure to end the war and did their harder line and their new offensive that Joe Biden would never have let. Trump began courting Turkey, which Biden never did. President Erdogan had been sidelined by Joe Biden. The linchpin, according to the Wall Street Journal, was sidelined by Joe Biden but was welcomed and brought in by Trump to seal the deal. This afforded the Turkish leader his first White House meeting, that's Erdogan, his first White House meeting in more than 5 years. Erdogan then dispatched his intelligence chief, bringing in Turkey, added to the sense that the region was now speaking with one voice. I just told you, the United Arab world, the Arab world is now speaking with one voice. Trump did that, not Joe Biden. Now, this is the thing with the villas and the Four Seasons in Egypt on the Red Sea. This is something else. Okay, I'll share just a few little things from this Axios article today. Hamas leaders feared Israel would resume the war. Steve Witkoff, the real estate mogul, an icon that Trump brought in as a personal friend and brought him in to do Middle East negotiations as a Middle East envoy. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, a Jew, had to meet with the Hamas leaders in person. Did you hear this? We met with Hamas in person. Our emissaries. Can you believe it? A Jew met directly with Hamas to negotiate. Don't you love that? They met with them and they directly assured them that Trump would not let what they didn't want to happen. Like, in other words, he would actually honor the word of the peace plan. They had to meet in person, face to face, and shake hands, as long as the group held up its side of the deal. They met at first of all, Witkoff and Jared Kushner were at the Villa Four Seasons. They walked into another villa and they met with the Egyptian and Turkish intelligence chiefs, senior Qatari officials, and the foremost senior Hamas leaders involved in the negotiations. The head negotiator for Hamas asked Steve Witkoff if Witkoff and Kushner had a message from Trump. Do you have a message for me and Hamas from Trump? Yes. President Trump's message is that you will be treated fairly and that he stands behind all 20 points of his peace plan and will make sure they are all implemented. The willingness of Witkoff and Kushner to meet Hamas leaders, quote, this is why when Trump's envoys gave their word that this deal would be fully enforced, they believed it, because they had to have a handshake and they had to meet him in person. That's what got this deal closed. Trump's emissaries, in person, face-to-face with Hamas, shaking hands. None of this would have happened under Joe Biden. Now, two more in-depth pieces that they're like 6-8 pages, but I have a handful of notes from each one that I'm highlighting a couple of things here and there that you have to hear. So this was New York Times today. A memo at a bunker, intercepted communications, and Hamas's October 7th plans. The plan, and what they did was they got into a bunker that had a computer that was not hooked up directly, was unhooked up, unhooked, but they had to hook it up, send messages, receive, and then unhook. They got all the intel out of there. They got a memo that had all the plans laid out. This is one of the tunnels they got into. It was where one of the high-value terrorists were, where they got and killed him. Yahya Sinwar wanted his fighters to target civilians from the outset. We know this, but this is official now. This is the memo he made. There's also intercepts and other intelligence that Israel provided, and New York Times also got on its own to corroborate stuff. One commander said for October 7th, "I want the whole kibbutz to be in flames. Set fire to anything," a commander said. The memo outlined a plan. It expressed hope that the acts would have high shock value, stomp on the heads of soldiers. Another commander said, "Kill everyone on the road." They said, what if we come across people on the road? Civilians like you and me. Kill everyone on the road. Kill everyone you encounter. Obviously, that's civilians. So this idea, because Hamas to this day claims it didn't intend to kill civilians, it didn't kill civilians, and all the leftists try to play that. It's all a lie. We know that. But here's official corroboration. People outside Gaza, they wanted people outside Gaza, according to the memos, to join in the fight. They wanted radical Islamists and other Arab nations to rise up and destroy Israel. This was their plan through this. The plan envisioned that Palestinians in the West Bank, and that's why they broadcast everything and they had their GoPros and everything, they put it all out there. They wanted people outside Gaza to join in the fight. They envisioned their plan that Palestinians in the West Bank, Arabs in Israel, and our nation, quote unquote, either reference to Arabs or Muslims in both, would respond positively to calls for them to join the revolution. They wanted them to film and broadcast images of them as fast as possible. The murders, the rapes, the tortures. They wanted to persuade Hamas's allies, Iran and Hezbollah, to join in the assault. They wanted to document the scenes of horror now, quote unquote, and broadcast them on TV channels and to the whole world, a commander said from Gaza City, told operatives in the area of Kibbutz Sa'ad. Slaughter them. End the children of Israel. It is essential that you... Now let me talk about that for a second. End the children of Israel. That is genocide. The only party trying to commit genocide is Hamas. They're trying to kill every single Jew and destroy Israel. They are the genocidal people and nation or area. Nobody else is. It is not Israel by far. One of the commanders also said, it is essential that you bring the drone so it films for the entire Islamic world. So that was their hope. They hoped to get all the Arab nations and the radical Islamists together to invade Israel and destroy it. I said this in previous podcasts and mentions and radio shows and stuff, that if Hamas, in the past couple weeks, really in the past week or two, if Hamas knew what they would be in, the position they would be in right now, or even a week ago, they never would have done the October 7th attack 2 years ago. If Iran knew what the attack that they sponsored, trained, and armed and planned, and they are ultimately responsible for, along with Hamas, Iran never would have done it, because their nuclear program is barely alive, if you will. Their air defenses, all the weaponry, Hezbollah is destroyed. All their proxies are neutered or destroyed. They never would have done this. I swear to you, they would not have done this, because they are screwed, and they have been screwed. There's a hostage. I could play for you, but I'm not going to play. I decided not to play it. One of the released hostages did an interview, and he literally said tonight that they talked politics while they were held hostage, and he said absolutely they wanted Kamala to win, and when Trump won, they were afraid. They were afraid. And the reporter said, why? And he said, because they knew that Trump was coming for them. They knew that Trump, basically, I'll put it in a nutshell, they knew Trump had balls and would destroy them. So, there you go. The Israeli military, now this is the other thing, quote, this is from a high-ranking Hamas official in communications, and he said it publicly on Al Jazeera. He said, quote, the Israeli military won't be able to attend to confrontations on other fronts. The deputy leader of Hamas's political office said in a recorded message that was broadcast on Al Jazeera on October 7th. Okay? In other words, if we all do this, they'll be destroyed. They won't be able to keep up with all the people from on every front. After today, he said, no one, on October 7th, after today, no one can hold back his rifle, his bullet, his pistol, his knife, car, or Molotov cocktail. The closing of this lengthy New York Times piece says Israel assassinated this man in January of 2024. Your plan failed. Trump was elected. You lose. Now, you and I have heard stories from hostages. Even the Jew-hating leftist UN has said that women are being systematically raped in captivity in Gaza. But what we haven't heard is excerpts of this brand new book that came out from a man named Eli Sharabi. He was one of the terrorist hostages released from Israel. I'm just going to read you some of the highlights from his some excerpts from his new book, because we have not heard about stuff like this, and this is the vile and disgusting and sick little intricacies and milieu or little granular details of what it's like to be there, day in, day out, hour after hour, minute by minute, in unsanitary conditions, in darkness, starving, for 2 years. He said there's diseases that they were dealing with and terrified about that they never worried about at home. One man, and so, this guy said he didn't get them, but many did. And the terrorists were always worried about catching the disease from them, so they tried to keep them healthy, not because they wanted to keep them healthy, but because they didn't want to die from disease from them. But look at this. Constant diarrhea, frequent vomiting, fungal infections, nails falling off, dizziness, but it gets more vile and disgusting. They had what they call a cesspit under the toilet stops that were draining, but at one point they stopped draining and everything spilled over. The raw sewage rose to the surface, adding to the unbearable stink. It spreads and worsens with every passing day. At some point, get ready for this. At some point, worm colonies start to form around us. They describe the tiny white worms multiplying in the toilet tank. In the stagnant sewage drains by the sink were this is where the tiny worms were, white worms multiplying by the toilet tank. Also in the stagnant sewage drains by the sink, on the floor, on our toothbrushes. We tell our captors about the worms. It scares them. Our captors bring us some sort of tool to try to unclog the cesspit, hoping to make things better. It's no help. We simply get used to living with the worms. I mean, can you imagine white worms crawling everywhere and getting used to living with them? Not knowing who they are, what they are? Every morning, it gets a little worse. Every morning, we check our bodies to make sure we're not covered in worms. It doesn't always work. In other words, sometimes they are covered with white worms that are surviving and thriving in human feces. Eventually, we surrender to the worms. We accept that they're here to stay. You think that's against the Geneva Convention? You think that's something? I mean, is this... I'd venture to say, obviously, this is probably, I don't know, but this has got to be worse or close to, or worse than what the Vietnamese, how they treated our precious captives, our POWs. Meantime, Elizabeth Warren, hey, you want to get a beer? Let's grab a beer. Pocahontas tweeted out today, for 2 excruciating years, I've called for the return of the hostages brutally kidnapped on October 7th and held in Gaza. Today's a good day. Surviving hostages are finally home and reunited with loved ones. I'm thinking of them, their families, da-da-da-da. But J.D. Vance retweeted it with a comment. The president told me he did this on Indigenous Peoples Day in honor of you. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day! As I like to say. I got to say it the right way. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day! A.K.A. Columbus Day. Okay. Ukraine. Oh, wait. Let's play 2 more things. Christiana Monpour is in massive trouble. She apologized, but she's not really apologizing. Here's what she said that has obviously made all of us so disgusted today. And here you listen.
And I think for sure, people who start to talk to the hostages who've only just been released will find that it will take a long, long time for them to recover physically but also mentally. It's been a terrible, terrible 2 years for them, because not only are they there, they're probably being treated better than the average Gazan because they are the pawns and the chips that Hamas had.
Yeah, they'll probably be treating better than the average Gazan. Are they living in white worms? Are they being raped? Their men and their women? Are they being beaten daily? Are they being starved? This picture of what the man looked like before and after, look at that hostage. Now, if you look, his head is bigger. I mean, that is not a starving Gazan. The pictures you've seen of supposed starving Gazans with New York Times and other leftist outfits, we found to be a lie and false, and they had medical conditions that Israel even flew them out of the country to take care of them, out of Gaza to take care of them. That is a man starved like the Holocaust. He can barely live, and he's digging his own grave right there from Hamas. Yeah, that's the average, being treated better than the average Gazan. This woman is a sick puke. Look at that man. Look at him before. That could be your son. I mean, it's hard to believe that a head could be on that little thing. His head looks too like it's fake, like it's stuck on a body with a stick. I mean, it's horrifying to look at that. And there he is being forced to dig his own grave. That woman is, well, you know who she is. You know this is what the media think. They hate the Jews. They love the terrorists. They will never speak ill of Islam. And they despise Christians. They hate Christians. They hate us. They hate Republicans. They hate Trump. They can keep on hating. But I'm glad Christiane Amanpour let us be known what we already knew, how she really feels. She had a groveling fake apology, but that's okay. We know how you feel. She's incredibly arrogant, and it comes out in her apology, what she said there, all that stuff. She knows everything, huh? Okay. Let's hear President Trump with victory today, speaking to the Knesset, to the Israeli cabinet.
I love Israel. I'm with you all the way. You will be bigger, better, stronger, and more loving than ever before. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the United States of America, and God bless the Middle East. Thank you, everybody. Good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I was thinking about, I was at a retreat that was unbelievable and a life changer, game changer for me. It wasn't a day one, a 2-day one, it was a 3-day one. It's intense. And God ripped open everything and revealed things to me, and I heard from him in ways that I haven't heard from, not audible, but, I was clearly, hearing things, again, not audibly, but that were incredible to me and revealed the issues I have been having that I couldn't figure out for myself. And my wife had dear friends of mine from high school all the way to now, and my parents and people in my life that mean everything to me write letters to me, and it's part of the whole program at the end. Towards the end, you read their letters of encouragement and how they feel about you. And I have two friends who are Jewish. I have several friends who are Jewish from back in Chicago that are dear friends, that are very liberal. And I love them dearly. And one of them is a former police officer and is a firefighter guy. And he's to me, he's a real man's man. He really is. I look at him as like a Bruce Willis. We're the same age. We're friends. We went to college together, and we're friends in high school. But I mean, he literally. I wanted. I think Bernie Sanders. I can't remember. But we talk about things. There's nothing negative. We're totally friends. The point is, I thought about him with all this today, and I thought about like me and him. I would fight side by side with him, unequivocally, in love and in war. And that's just a little something I really wanted to share with you because it's really, really important to I don't know, I just want to tell you, I got some Jewish friends I love dearly that I've been friends with for decades and decades, and I'm very dear friends with, and this is something that we are all proud about today and happy about, and this is something that we could fight together on the battlefield if need be. And that's important to note, that our political differences mean nothing when we're fighting good versus evil. Good versus evil. Now, going to Ukraine, I am glad that Trump is, since Russia won't come to the table, he worked with them, he did everything he could. in the right way and the nice way. Now he's saying he might give tomahawks to Zelensky, and I think that's great. And he's basically saying he's going to give Vladimir, he's going to talk to him, whatever, and give him a little chance here. But it's over, basically. If Putin doesn't come back to the table, is what he said, then the tomahawks are going to go to Zelensky, and the tomahawks can strike inside Moscow. That is exactly what needs to happen if Putin doesn't decide to actually finish this thing and work to finish it, like Trump's done in Israel. This is a bad news today for Putin because of what's going on with Israel and the peace he's bringing, that Trump's bringing to united people. He's going to unite people against Russia, and he is, but he's going to do a better job, and he's going to put balls. He's going to put that frickin' tomahawk chop on Putin, and I think that's very important. And that's it. I think he's exactly right. And I will, unabashedly, we'll sell the tomahawks. We won't give them. We'll sell them to Europeans, and the Europeans will arm Ukraine with them. So that's perfect. And that'll be the next step, because this has to end. And if that brings Putin to the table, great. I love what Trump said, though. I'm not going to put additional sanctions that could cripple Putin. If you, Europe, continue, as long as you're buying their gas and oil, you are stupid, you're a fool, and you're funding the war. F you. Stop funding the war, and then I'll get some sanctions out. The fat, piggy Europeans who are little kids that want to sit on our lap and have us do their work are getting their asses handed to themselves. Good. Okay, so that's that. And then last but not least, this is, okay, the reason why you hold the door for somebody is not so they can say thank you to you. You know, in my Christian faith, I don't do things so I can get a thank you. If I do, that's not a Christ-like behavior. Every time I hold the door for somebody out in public, or do something for somebody out in public, let them go first, or give them a cart that they were waiting and I gave them something before me or something like that, I do expect an apology, and it's you should give an apology. But I hold myself back when I want to, the immature younger me, I don't know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, would have said, 10, 15, 20 years ago, I don't know, somewhere around there, would have said, thank you, or something like that. But that's not how it is. So what happens when you hold the door for somebody and they don't say thank you, and then you tell them, you correct them and say they should say thank you to you? Well, you can get shot and killed. And that just happened in Dallas today. From Fox 4, woman killed outside Dallas PetSmart after argument over not saying thank you. Of all the stupid things you could do, one of them is trying to force somebody to say thank you and shaming them for not saying thank you. So she said that to a thug at PetSmart. The thug started threatening her and getting in her face. The woman then walked out and walked to a nearby. I'm sorry, they were at another store. No, they were at PetSmart. And then the woman walked out and she went to another nearby store. Basically, the thug went out and grabbed herself a gun from her car or something, and then she started fighting with the lady. She said, come on, let's go outside, and let's fight. The mother and daughter tried to get into their car to de-escalate the situation, but the lady was not having it. They started to fight, said a witness, an ER nurse. They started to fight, and that's when the lady pulled out her gun and shot her. The daughter was next to the mom the whole time. It's hard because the mom screaming of a because the screaming of a child for her mother is never easy, and it's never going to leave my head. Well, they got the thugette actually, but there's no excuse for homicide, and there's nothing okay about it, and it's not the lady's fault for getting shot and killed. But the message, the moral is this: if you hold the door for somebody, don't expect a thank you, and if they don't give you a thank you, don't say anything. Because if you do things that are good so that you will get a reward, that is literally the antithesis of Christianity. Now, you might not be a Christian, but I'm just telling you, you're still a moron if you expect a thank you. Well, we all expect a thank you, but if you don't get the thank you and you do something about it and try to make them do something, you're an idiot. And you don't hold the door for somebody if you demand a thank you.